Steve Palmer, Surf Skate Love here, and in this video, I'm going to save you a ton of time and money by giving you a step-by-step process for choosing the perfect surf skate for you. I started my website and my channel because when I first got into surf skating and fell in love with it, I was really surprised by three things. Number one, how few people know about surf skating. Number two, how it's primarily focused on surf training specifically for surfers. And three, how hard it is to find good information to make the right decisions. And in my opinion, it's that third one that's holding surf skating back from fully exploding. People don't even know what a surf skate is, let alone how to choose one. And because I love surf skating so much, I set out to do something about that. And the first thing I did was buy every surf skate that I could get my hands on all across the world. I've been buying boards for months, and all told, to date, I have spent over $4,000 on surf skates. And in this video, I'm going to share my experience with you so that you don't have to waste $4,000 dialing in on your perfect specs. If you go through this process, you could get into the perfect surf skate for you for as little as $79 and no more than $400. So as you can see, I've tried all the major brands and almost everything out there, including Smoothstar from Australia, Yao from Spain, Carver, Waterborne, Hamboards, the Curveboard from Germany, the Mindless from the UK, and a whole lot more. And there's a handful out there that I haven't been able to get my hands on yet, but I think I have a pretty good grasp of what's out there. So to cover all the details that I need to in this video, this is going to be a longer video, but I'm going to help you navigate it by using timestamps in the video description. So I'm going to start at a high level, and then you're going to dial in on where you should focus, and then you can just use the timestamps to get the relevant information for you. I don't sell boards, I don't represent companies, I don't use affiliate links. My loyalty is to you, the surf skater out there trying to make an expensive decision that you don't want to get wrong. Believe me, I've been through this process. Okay, so let's dive into this step-by-step process for choosing the perfect surf skate for you. The first step is to choose which brand to buy based on your budget, your riding style and purpose, and the experience you're looking for. And once you've chosen the right brand, then you start zeroing in on your specific board specs for your height, weight, riding style, environment, and purpose. I'm not going to go into a lot of details on specific brands in this video. If you want to learn more about any of them, I invite you to watch my other review videos. So here's the bottom line. For reasons that you can learn about in my other review videos, I'm going to right out of the gate eliminate every other company except for 5. Swelltech, Smoothstar, Yao, Carver, and the Waterborne Surf Adapter. There are other systems out there that may be a better fit for some riders, but I really think that those 5 brands are going to be the best option for about 90% of riders out there. So let me give you an overview of these then so that you can hone in on the right brand for you. But first, let's talk budget. The Waterborne Surf Adapter is by far the cheapest way to get into surf skating. It's just $79 on Amazon. Swelltech's range from $199 to $245. Carver's cost between $240 and $260. And for Smoothstars and Yaos, you'll pay anywhere from $300 to $400 depending on your shipping options. So depending on your budget, that might eliminate some options for you right there. Now let's talk about each of these systems and who and what they're good for. Swelltech is by far the most sensitive and hard to ride surf skate on the market. It's for one rider and one purpose only. That's very advanced riders and advanced surf training only. Honestly, in my opinion, Swelltech is for maybe 3% of the surf skating population. And for most people, I would probably recommend to start with a Smoothstar anyway. But if you're a very advanced surfer and you really want to challenge, then use the timestamps to skip to my Swelltech section. Now, Smoothstar and Yao. These are what I call the Mercedes and BMW of surf skates. They're the best, smoothest, most luxurious feeling surf skates on the market, and they're very similar in terms of their smoothness and range of motion. Aside from the Swelltech, they have the widest range of motion. In my opinion, Smoothstar is smoother and glidier, but it's built more for surf training specifically. And I don't ride bowls, but I would be willing to bet that most bowl riders would probably prefer Smoothstar over Yao. Smoothstar decks have a much deeper concave and a sharper kicktail than Yao decks. I'm just a street cruiser, and for that, Yao is my favorite. I love my Smoothstar for tight spaces and shorter distances, but it's not great for long distance cruising. So I'm going to bottom line it and say if you're looking for surf training specifically, go with Smoothstar. But if you're really just looking for more of a street cruiser like I ride, then go with the Yao. And you can click on the timestamps in the video description below to skip to either section now. Now let's talk about Carver. If you're not a surfer, but you come from just a skateboarding or a longboarding background and you want to get into surf skating, then hands down, Carver is the brand that I'm going to recommend you start with. And if that's you, go ahead and skip to the Carver timestamp below. And that leaves us with the Waterborne Surf Adapter. The Waterborne is a great surf skate truck, and its range of motion and feel, I would say, is somewhat comparable to even Smoothstar and Yao. And it's also the best truck for long distance pumping that I've tried. The Waterborne is perfect for 2 people. First and foremost, the person who's budget conscious and you don't really even know if you want to invest into surf skating, well, you can just spend $79 on the surf adapter and you're into into a surf skate. And the second person it works well for is the rider who loves to customize and tinker and fine tune your ride. And if that's you, then click to the Waterborne timestamp below. All right, so if you think Swelltech is your best fit, then let's go deeper into how to choose the perfect Swelltech for you. Swelltech is actually fairly easy to choose because they offer only 7 models with 5 different lengths. I got their Austin Keen model because it's 33 inches long, and on any other deck, 33 to 34 inches is my sweet spot for my height. But on the Swelltech, it's totally different. For my height, I should be in their longest one, the 40-inch Premier Blackout. So honestly, I would say that there's not a whole lot of difference in the Swelltech models. The single biggest determining factor in a Swelltech is the right length for your height. So really the only guideline I'm going to give you there is just really pay close attention to their guidelines on their website and go on the longer end. If you're used to a 31-inch board, then you're going to want probably their 36-inch model in the Swelltech. But again, follow their sizing guidelines on their website. And that's pretty much all I'd say about Swelltech. Now let's talk about choosing the right SmoothStar for you if you've decided that SmoothStar is the brand you're looking for. If you go to their website, you'll see that they basically offer 7 different models. They have some variety within those models, but it really is 7 models, ranging anywhere from 26 inches for kids all the way up to this 35.5-inch Manta Ray, which I got for my height. So with SmoothStar, you're not going to get really any variety as far as the deck goes. Any deck you get on any model is going to be that deeper concave with the sharper kicktail than any other deck you're going to find on the market. And the way that that deck rides really is a significant difference in a SmoothStar compared to any other brand out there. So if you're not comfortable with a deep concave deck, then right out of the gate, you're probably going to eliminate SmoothStar and go with the Yao. So with that said, there's really just 2 variables when it comes to choosing your SmoothStar, and that's the deck length and the width of the wheelbase. And SmoothStar makes it easy for you. Go to their website, they have a page called Choosing Your SmoothStar, and they give you really clear and specific sizing guidelines. And like the Swelltech, I'm going to say really pay attention to those and trust them. And the way SmoothStar is built, you're probably going to want a longer deck than your typical sweet spot length. In my case, 34 inches, as I've said, is the perfect length for me in any other deck. But on the SmoothStar, the Manta Ray is 35.5 inches, and that is the best fit for me. I was considering this and the Felipe Toledo, which is, I think, 34 inches. But I know from riding this for a fact that anything shorter than this would be too short for me and wouldn't be the most comfortable ride. So follow their sizing guidelines and err on the side of longer when it comes to SmoothStar. And that's really about it when it comes to choosing your SmoothStar model, because they don't have variety in the decks, they don't really have variety in the wheels or any of those other component parts. It really is just that deck length and that wheelbase based on your height. Moving on to Yao. Again, Yao is for the person who wants the most luxurious, highest end surf skate, but you're going to be more focused on street cruising than surf training. So let's help you choose the right Yao model for you. In my experience, Yao and Carver are by far the hardest companies to choose a model based on just what you see on the website, because they don't give a lot of guidelines. And furthermore, Yao does not give good product pictures. All they give you is pictures of the top and the bottom of the board, but they don't give you any perspective pictures to show you what the concave looks like. And that was one of the things that I was surprised about when I got my Yaos, is how flat the decks are, because you can't tell from the website what the concave or the kicktail looks like at all. And on their product description pages, to describe the concaves, they use 3 descriptions: performance, medium, and high. But if you're like me, when I was buying my first Yao, and I didn't even have a lot of experience with board sports, period, I have no idea what any of those mean. So personally, I really wish Yao would do a better job of giving better product pictures and really describing how each of them ride better, because it's pretty difficult to choose a Yao. And I think that there's only a couple models that have the high concave, so I think pretty much across the board, if you get a Yao, you can pretty much expect very little concave to it. Even if it says it's a medium concave, relative to other concaves you've experienced, it's probably fairly low. Like the SmoothStar, the 2 biggest variables I think when it comes to choosing the Yao are the deck length and the wheelbase. So I've gone through 3 Yaos. I started on the 36-inch Yao Malibu because having come from a longboarding background, I wanted something that felt more comfortable to me. And that Malibu has a wheelbase of 22.5 inches. So that Yao Malibu is my perfect long distance cruiser. I have put so many miles on that thing. I can jump on that Malibu and I can cruise 3 hours through my city, and it's probably the most comfortable ride that I have. So after experiencing the 36-inch Malibu, then I wanted to try something shorter. And I wanted something with a tighter wheelbase to experience how much of a difference that would change the ride. After a lot of research, and again, I didn't really know because Yao doesn't help you very much, I settled on their 34-inch Padang Padang model with an 18.5-inch wheelbase. And my experience on that board was that the length is good, but the wheelbase going from a 22.5-inch wheelbase to an 18.5-inch wheelbase, that was what made the single biggest difference in this ride. It wasn't the deck length. So that Padang Padang is a completely different ride. It has a way tighter turning radius, and it is way better designed for surf training specifically. Unfortunately, that wheelbase is too short for my comfort. I'm a street cruiser, and so 18.5 is more of something for performance riding, where you're doing really tight stuff in tight spaces, and that's not my style. So I spent like $350 on that Padang Padang model, and it's okay for me, but it really is not my ideal. Yao offers a few models that are 34 inches, and the big variable in them is the wheelbase. So after experiencing that Padang Padang with the 18.5-inch wheelbase, then I wanted one that was their same deck length, but a longer wheelbase. So the next Yao I bought was the Pukas Dark, which is 34.5 inches long. So pretty much the same length as the Padang Padang, but it has a 20-inch wheelbase compared to the 18.5-inch wheelbase of the Padang Padang. And that makes a huge difference in the ride. Just an 1.5 inch wheelbase, the Pukas Dark is a way better long-distance street cruiser for me than the Padang Padang, even though there's only a 1/2 inch difference in the length. So unfortunately, I can't give you the exact specs of what your Yao should be. There's a lot of variables that go into that, and Yao doesn't give you the best information. Obviously, the shorter the wheelbase, the tighter the turning radius. So if your style is more like me, the long-distance cruiser, you just cruise around town, choose the right length for you based on your height, but then on that length, look at the wheelbases of the models offered in those lengths and go with the longest wheelbase that they have on that length. But if you are more of a surf trainer and you want the tighter turning radius, then you're going to want to look for the ones with the narrower wheelbase. And as I'm sure you know, Yao has 3 trucks now. They have the S4, the S5, and the Meraki. I'm going to really just simplify that for you and say, I think that the Meraki is an improvement over both the S4 and the S5, and so I'm going to just pretty much say, and I think they all just come stocked with the Meraki anymore anyway, so go with the Meraki on the Yao. Now let's talk about how to choose the right carver for you. And in my experience, honestly, Carver is probably the hardest company to choose a board from because they offer so many models. I think it's something like 33 models, and those models all are very different. They all have different specs. They have different board types and sizes, ways that they perform, and Carver gives very little guidance and information on how to choose the right one for you. So the first thing I'm going to tell you about Carver is there is somebody out there, I don't know who it is, somebody on Facebook sent me the link to a Google spreadsheet that somebody created that breaks down every single Carver model, gives you all of their specs, and then tells you this ride is good for this purpose. So if you go down to the video description, you're going to see a link to that Google spreadsheet. And whoever it is that created that, thank you, because that is an invaluable resource to the surf skating community. And to speak to my experience, really the thing that I would say with Carver is go through a big picture process of elimination to just eliminate the clutter of those 33 models. Basically start with your deck length. So in my case, like as I've said, the first one I ever bought was the 777 because that was their longest model and I had come from a very long longboard cruiser. But after that, I bought the 33.75 inch green room, and for me, far and away, the green room is my Carver board. It is the perfect fit for me. The green room is in my top 3 favorite boards of all time, and the deck on the green room is my favorite deck of anything that I've ever tried. But again, I didn't know that until I bought both the 777 and the green room. So in my case, because I'm 6'2", it was actually fairly easy for me to zero in on my Carver models because I knew that I really was only looking at two options, and that was their two longest ones, the 777 and the green room. And so that immediately eliminated every other option for me. But where Carver can get very problematic is if you're in that 31 to 32 inch range, because they have a bunch of different models in that range that are all designed differently and are for different purposes. So again, for that, I'm going to direct you to the link to that Google spreadsheet that will break that down for you. Another thing I'm going to suggest when it comes to choosing your first Carver is to avoid the more like what I would call specialty or novelty boards. Those are the boards like the ones that have the colored tops. I would say to avoid those. They also have a couple models for skateboarders, the Bel Air and the Impala. I would also say to eliminate as beginner boards their symmetrical boards like the Lost and the Black Beauty. So that's the best guidance that I can give you on Carver is go big picture, do your research and figure out your deck length. From there, eliminate all the other options. And then from there, look at their models at those lengths and then zero in on the specs, use that Google spreadsheet. And then from there, it comes down to choosing which trucks you want, either the CX or the C7. And I'm going to just bottom line that for you. If your riding style is sharp, tight, snappy, slidey, you do a lot of slides and things like that, then go with the CX. But if you're like me, more of a street cruiser, you want it to feel more flowy, more glidey, looser, wider range of motion, and for more long distance cruising, then go with the C7. Now let's talk a little bit about the waterborne surf adapter. Now, obviously you're not choosing a deck, you're just buying the adapter, but I did just want to give you some basic guidelines on how to go about customizing your waterborne to get a good surf skate ride. The honest truth is, although I really dig the performance of the waterborne is not my favorite because I am not that customizer. I'm not good at it. I'm the kind of rider who really just wants somebody else to do all that work and research for me and just hand me something and let me buy something off the shelf and ride it. So there's going to be riders out there who are going to be way more qualified to speak to how to optimize the waterborne than me. The best that I can give you is general guidelines. So the first thing I would say is if you come from a skateboard or a longboard, that you're going to want to find a deck that is more aligned with surf skate specs than probably what you're used to riding. If you're on a longboard with a long wheelbase, I can promise you that the waterborne is not going to work great for that. There may be other riders who have other preferences, but I think probably most people would agree that 9.5 to 10 inches is a good width for a surf skate, which is wider than most skateboards and longboards. From there, you want to get the right deck length, and I'm going to say avoid anything over 36 inches long at the very longest. One of the biggest differences I found in this process is the wheel base. In my experience, the waterborne does not like anything that's long and with a wide wheelbase. I've tried the waterborne on I think 5 or 6 different decks at this point. The favorite that I've tried out of all of them is this loaded Omikaze, and you'll hear a lot of people talking about this online, and a lot of people use this on the waterborne. Personally, I like it. I don't love it. I think it rides kind of like a tank, honestly. It's big, it's clunky, it's heavy, and I think that these holes should be set back more. I think that that would make this Omikaze ride better. So even though the Omikaze is really my ideal deck specs, it's 34 inches long by 10 inches wide, this just is not my favorite ride. I wish I could be more help to you on the waterborne, but there's lots of resources out there. And if you're getting into a waterborne, you probably are that customizer anyway, so you're right out of the gate gonna know more than me, and you're probably gonna just have fun in that process. Like I don't have fun in the process because I'm like, oh, there's another combination that doesn't work, there's another one. That process is not my thing. So I hope that was helpful, but you really gotta just play with it and find your sweet spot. So there's your process for choosing a surf skate. Now obviously there's going to be more nitty-gritty details that are gonna go into that process for you. I hope that I've given you a good general process here to really at least get to that process where you've eliminated a bunch of big picture options and now you can really fine tune by getting into those details. If you want more details on any of these specific boards or trucks or system, then go to my other review videos where I go into all those in great depth. So go through this process, get your surf skate, and go have a blast.